It is Tuesday morning. You were in bed for 8 hours, but when you open your eyes, it feels as if something never recharged. You get up. You make coffee. You look at the same list of things you have handled dozens of times before. Answer the messages. Finish the report. Make the call. Deal with whatever appeared overnight. Nothing on the list is unusually difficult. That is what makes the feeling strange. Things you normally do without thinking now seem to require a small negotiation with yourself. You sit for a little longer before opening the laptop. You reread the same email twice. Someone asks a simple question and, for a moment, you wish nobody needed anything from you. You are still functioning. You are still showing up. From the outside, the day may look completely normal, but ordinary things have started costing more than they used to. And that raises a strange question. How does exhaustion stop being about one difficult day and start following you into everything else? Burnout is often talked about as if it simply means being extremely tired, but tiredness is only part of the picture. In ICD-11, the World Health Organization describes burnout as an occupational phenomenon associated with chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. Its description has 3 main dimensions. The first is exhaustion. That is the part most people recognize immediately. Your energy feels depleted. Starting the day becomes harder. Tasks that once felt routine begin to feel unusually expensive. But then there is a second dimension, distance. You may become more mentally removed from your work, more cynical about it, less emotionally connected to things that once mattered to you. Sometimes this does not feel dramatic. It sounds more like, whatever, just get it done. I do not care anymore. And then there is the third part, reduced professional efficacy. The growing feeling that your effort is not producing what it used to. You work, but rarely feel finished. You solve one problem and another replaces it. You accomplish something, but the accomplishment barely registers before your attention moves to what is still missing. This is why burnout is more complicated than simply needing sleep. Sleep can help a tired body. It cannot by itself change the relationship you have developed with a work life that keeps asking for more than you feel able to restore, which leaves a more interesting question. Why can the exhaustion remain after the workday has technically ended? One useful way researchers have studied this is by looking at the relationship between demands and resources at work. A demand is anything that consistently requires effort from you. Workload, time pressure, emotional strain, constant interruptions, responsibility for other people, having to make decisions when you are already stretched. None of those things automatically creates burnout. A demanding job can also feel meaningful, manageable, even energizing when other things are present. Enough control, enough support, useful feedback, time to recover. A sense that your effort is actually going somewhere. The problem becomes more serious when demands keep accumulating while the resources available to meet them do not keep pace. And this can happen quietly. You do not necessarily wake up one morning and suddenly become burned out. You adapt. You stay later. You answer one more message. You stop taking the lunch break because you are behind. You become better at tolerating a level of strain that would have felt unusual 6 months earlier. And because you are still getting things done, the system appears to be working. Until you notice that everything outside the work has started getting smaller. You do not want to cook. You postpone calling someone back. You stop doing the thing you normally enjoy because it somehow feels like one more thing that requires energy. This is one reason burnout can be difficult to recognize while it is developing. The person experiencing it may still look capable, sometimes especially capable. The cost is simply becoming harder to see. There is another part of the story that helps explain why being away from work does not always feel like recovering from it. Researchers use the term psychological detachment to describe the ability to mentally disengage from work during non-work time. The phrase sounds technical. The experience is not. You leave the office, but part of the office comes home with you. You replay a conversation while making dinner. You think about tomorrow while brushing your teeth. You check one message because it will only take a minute. Then you think about the answer for the next 20. Research following workers across their daily lives has found that heavier workload can be associated with greater difficulty mentally detaching after work, and lower detachment can travel alongside greater fatigue. In other words, Work can end on the clock before it ends in your head, and this creates a problem. The hours that are supposed to help restore you can become another extension of the thing that depleted you. For some people, the demands outside work make this even harder. Work ends, but another shift begins. An aging parent needs help arranging an appointment. A child needs money, transportation, advice, attention. There are bills, medications, forms, family decisions. Research on caregivers has found that people supporting more than one generation can experience substantial strain. This does not create a fourth dimension of occupational burnout. It does show why the simple phrase, "just rest after work," can feel detached from the reality of some people's lives. Sometimes there is no clean boundary between the thing taking your energy and the time that was supposed to give some of it back. There is an important limitation here. Burnout is not something a video can diagnose. The World Health Organization classifies it as an occupational phenomenon, not a medical condition. And some of the experiences associated with burnout overlap with other problems. Depression is an important example. Burnout and depressive symptoms can overlap considerably, and researchers still debate exactly how distinct the two constructs are in practice. So feeling exhausted does not automatically mean burnout. Feeling disconnected from work does not prove burnout. And if low mood, hopelessness, sleep changes, loss of interest, or other symptoms are affecting many parts of your life, the useful question may be larger than what is happening at work. That uncertainty does not make burnout meaningless. It simply means the explanation needs to stay smaller than the internet often makes it. Burnout describes a pattern connected to chronic work-related stress. It is not a personality type. It is not proof that someone is weak, and it is not a label we need to attach to every difficult week. So what actually helps? The most common answer is usually some version of this. Take a break, take a vacation, get more sleep, do something relaxing. Those things can matter. Recovery matters. But there is a difference between getting temporary relief and changing the conditions that keep producing the strain. One small vacation study found something interesting. Burnout symptoms improved while people were away from work. Then, after they returned, those improvements gradually faded. That does not mean vacations are useless. It means a vacation can interrupt a pattern without necessarily changing the pattern. If you return to exactly the same workload, the same lack of control, the same unfinished demands, and the same inability to mentally leave work behind, the system that depleted you is still there. Research on recovery from work points towards something less dramatic. Actual off-work time. Periods when work is no longer demanding attention. Activities that allow mental distance rather than quietly extending the workday into the evening. But even that is only part of the answer. Because if recovery requires constantly becoming better at surviving an unchanged environment, eventually the more useful question becomes, what keeps taking the energy? Maybe the demand itself can change. Maybe expectations need to change. Maybe a boundary is missing. Maybe a resource is missing. Maybe the problem is not the amount of effort you are willing to give. Maybe it is that the system has learned it can keep taking that effort without giving enough back. This is why advice about burnout becomes frustrating when it focuses only on the person. Sleep better, meditate, exercise, manage your time. Those things may support recovery, but they cannot automatically repair a workplace with impossible demands, low control, poor support, unclear expectations, or a culture that never really allows people to stop working. Recovery and removing the source of overload are not the same task. So go back to that Tuesday morning. The coffee is sitting in front of you. The laptop is closed. Nothing dramatic has happened yet. And somehow the day already feels heavy. The coffee was never the strange part. The strange part was how much effort an ordinary morning had begun to require. Burnout helps explain how that can happen. When work demands keep drawing from you, when distance begins replacing engagement, when effort starts feeling less effective, and when recovery repeatedly fails to catch up, exhaustion can begin to feel larger than the individual tasks that created it. It starts showing up around them, before work, after work, in the small decisions you no longer want to make, in the conversations you do not have the energy for, in the things you used to enjoy but now keep postponing. That does not mean every drained morning is burnout. But it may be worth paying attention when the pattern stops feeling temporary. When you feel most drained, Which part tends to appear first for you? The exhaustion, the distance from your work, or the feeling that all your effort is making less difference than it used to? Tell me in the comments. And if you like exploring the psychology hidden inside ordinary experiences like this, subscribe to The Ancient Mind, because there is another strange thing that can happen after a long period of pushing yourself. Sometimes you finally get permission to stop. You sit down. Nothing needs your attention for once, and instead of feeling relieved, you feel guilty for resting.